evening. Welcome to the April 3rd Vineland Board of Education combined meeting. Roll call, please. Mr. Merkley.
Mr. Costa. Mr. Fiuchi. Here. Mr. Holmes.
Present.
Mr. Medio.
Here.
Mr. Sobrana.
Here.
Ms. Spinelli.
Here.
Mr. Ulrich.
Present.
Mr. English.
Here. And for the record, Ms. Acosta had called a family emergency, and her family is in our prayers. In compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law, commonly referred to as the Sunshine Law, the Vineland Board of Education has caused a notice and posting of this meeting to be sent to the following, announcing time and place thereof, agenda, etc. The Daily Journal, SNJ Today, the Press of Atlantic City, Nuestra Comunidad, Visto Bueno, the Clerk for the City of Vineland, and the Administrative Office Public Bulletin Board. At this time, we have the Petway Elementary students that will come up and lead us in the flag salute. We have some certificates for the students, so please stay up there and we'll take a picture. Found it.
Should I give him his back?
Oh, who's this?
They sent it to the newspaper.
Okay.
This is one of the cases. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So we investigated it, and we always sent it to the state and to the
Thank you and great job, students. Sounds bad, huh? Yeah, but first we're going to do the resolution for executive session. And we'll do that. We'll do it now, and then we'll vote on it, and then we'll do presentations like this. And then after that. Right. At this time, do we have a resolution for executive session this evening?
Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the City of Vineland School District will convene into executive session on Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019 for the following reasons as outlined in NJSA 10-4-12. The purpose is discussion of an agreement to sell Leukter School property, an employee grievance, an employee job performance, and any other matter falling within the attorney-client privilege to the extent that confidentiality is required in order for the attorney to exercise his ethical duties as lawyer.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Fiuchi? Yes. Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrano?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Orwich?
Yes.
Mr. English?
Yes, this evening we will be going in executive session after our special presentations, because we wanted to go to our special presentations because we're not sure how long we're going to be in executive session this evening. So at this time, Dr. Gruccio, do we have some special presentations?
Yes, we do. I'd first like to call forward Mr. Patel, our Food Service Director, and we're very proud to have some five-star award recipients, which he will be introducing tonight.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pravesh Patel. I'm currently the Food Service Director with Sodexo. As you know, every year, hundreds of food establishments are inspected by the Vineland Health Department. Only a few are selected for the five-star award. I'm pleased to announce this year's 2018 five-star recipients. First, we have from Veteran Memorial Middle School, Michelle DiVincenzo. Come on up. From Rossi Elementary School, Rosaline Chavez. Right there. From Barcy Elementary School, Deborah Cavanero. From Sabatier Elementary School, Michelle Pagan. From Durand Elementary School, Lori Kalowitz. From Petway Elementary School, Lisa Groves. And we also have Johnstone AMSA School, Bernadette Jester, but she could not attend tonight. Congratulations.
Great job. Thank you, and congratulations to all of you. Next, I'd like to call forward Ms. Deborah Quinn, our Wallace School Principal, and she will be recognizing a special education teacher this evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Gruccio and board members, for allowing me to come up to acknowledge one of our amazing teachers. My name is Deborah Quinn. I'm the principal of Wallace School. It's my pleasure tonight to honor Miss Jacqueline Campbell. Jacqueline was a featured teacher by actress Kristen Bell, Hollywood actress Kristen Bell of The Good Place. She featured her on her website, on her Instagram website. Before I go into the award, I would like to ask Ms. Godlewski to come up to give a little background on Jacqueline.
Good evening, everyone. Ms. Campbell started her career with Vineland in the special ed department in 2007. She was located at Vineland High School. From there, she went over to our very blossoming autistic program over at Winslow School. And when those students needed to move on to the next level and go up to the middle school, I don't know if she volunteered or was voluntold, but she is the one who started our middle school program and has done an excellent job there, and now working with our intellectually disabled population over at Wallace. I don't know really what Ms. Quinn is going to say, but I just wanted to let you know that Ms. Campbell is by far a kind and compassionate person. I've never seen her frazzled. She has always been even-keeled and even-toned, and she's just a remarkable person to her students and to the community. I don't know if Debbie is going to mention it, but one of my favorite stories about Jackie is she is a foster mom who has adopted her beautiful, now just mom, to her beautiful daughters of Nyla and Aubrey. So she truly is a wonderful person, and this recognition is truly deserved. So I thank Ms. Quinn for letting me come up, but I also wanted to thank Miss Campbell for what she does for not only our department, but for the students of Vineland.
So I'll get to the award. Ms. Campbell was nominated by her sister Elise for this recognition. There were tens of thousands of nominees, and Kristen Bell chose 10 teachers to feature. Jackie was featured on February 8th of 2019, this past year, and on the feature on Kristen's Instagram homepage, she listed the wish list that Jacqueline had submitted. So Jackie gave an Amazon wish list, which Kristen, when she featured her, published the wish list, on her bio on the Instagram page for that Friday. Immediately, boxes started rolling into Jackie's home. She received hundreds of boxes from the wish list, hundreds of supplies, school supplies. She received a computer, a couple of Chromebooks, a printer, and she received countless craft items and school supplies for her classroom. She received so much that she has generously shared them with all her colleagues, and that's Jackie's way. As Terry mentioned, she's a very compassionate and empathetic person. I've not met anyone to compare to her. I've even felt just a little bit better being around her. Of course, this evening, she's not extremely happy to get this great acknowledgement, but as Dr. Gruccio and myself wanted to recognize her for the outstanding teacher that she is. So I would like to call Jacqueline forward. And this is one of your most amazing special education teachers. Jackie, thank you for everything you do for our students.
Thank you.
I'm going to picture. So I want you to get in the picture too.
Thank you, Jackie, and congratulations. Next, I'd like to call forward Mr. Stephen Chavo from Prudential for the Spirit of Community Awards, and also Mrs. Tammy Monahan. They will be honoring students for receiving a state award.
Good evening. I'd like to take a moment to thank Dr. Gruccio and the Board of Education for the opportunity today to recognize one of our Sergeant Dominic Pilla students, Riley Howerton, on earning the Prudential Spirit of Community Awards New Jersey State Recognition, State Honoree. With that said, I would like to take a moment to introduce Mr. Schiavo, a Prudential representative, who will now present this award to Riley.
Thank you. Hello. It's a great pleasure to be here today to honor a very special young woman. My company, Prudential Financial, in partnership with the National Association of Secondary School Principals, sponsors the Prudential Spirit of Community Awards. This national program honors middle-level and high school students for outstanding volunteer service. Thousands of young people across the country were considered for 2019 Spirit of Community Awards. From all of these, one middle level and one high school student in each state and the District of Columbia have been selected for a special recognition. Here in New Jersey, I'm delighted to report that our top middle level state honoree is your own Riley Howerton. Riley, will you please come forward? Riley has been singled out from all of the middle-level students in New Jersey for outstanding service to her community. Riley educates people on the importance of using words that do not offend others through speaking engagements, public service announcements, appearances at community events, and a children's book that she wrote. Riley, we want you to come to Washington, D.C. this May to join all of the other state honorees from across the country for 4 days of special recognition events. During this trip, you'll be presented with your $1,000 award and be considered for one of the 10 national awards. I would like to present you now with an engraved Prudential Spirit of Community Silver Medallion in recognition of your outstanding community service. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
I would just like to take a moment to add that this is the book that Riley wrote and promotes in the school about choosing wise words. So she's already got that started. Good job, Riley. Thank you for that.
Congratulations, Riley. You make us very proud. Next, I'd like to call forward Mrs. Angela DeTavio, a Vineland High School health science teacher, and she will be honoring HOSA award-winning students.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Gruccio, and all of the members of the board. I'd also like to thank our principal, Mrs. DeMarchi, for acknowledging the members of the Health Occupation Students of America. This year we received the most medals ever in all of our 10 years at the high school of our award-winning chapter. I thought tonight it would be nice to have a couple of the students show you what they did at competition. So I'm going to ask Katia Antonetti, who is our president of HOSA this year, to come up and give a sample of her speech. And I'm going to have my other student, Bianca Cicino, come up and show her poster. Okay, here's Katia.
Good evening, guys. So I was the prepared speaker for HOSA this year, and so what we did is that we needed to make a 5-minute speech based on a topic that we got, which this year's was to define our purpose. So I'll begin. We've all been told somehow and in some way to find our purpose, but how do we actually do this? As high school students striving to succeed in the field of healthcare, we might be struggling to find the perfect fit for us. Our purpose is our mission statement to ourselves. It's how we plan to stand out in this world. So to those who are struggling, take some time to analyze these thoughts and apply them to your position. So what is a purpose? I've created the acronym FIM to help us define this term. F stands for fulfillment. Your purpose should make you feel fulfilled and content. I stands for interest. Although at times this can be difficult, it could be easy from listing anything you care about and like. This can range from hair, skin, teeth, or even animals. Lastly, M stands for meaning. If what you're doing is not meaningful to you, the purpose has not been found yet. Fulfillment, interest, and meaning all correlate to each other, as purpose is not defined if one of these are not present. Take some time to analyze your positive attributes. Think about the skills and traits you've been most complimented on, the times you stood out in school, and the times you've been considered a leader. Brainstorm some ideas that you have. These can range from doing surgeries to doing checkups. Keep in mind it's what makes you happy and fulfilled that matters. Remind yourself that the skills you've always wanted to learn. If you're considering changing your path in any way, I urge you to spend some time brainstorming your answers to these questions and writing them down with pen and paper. When you're done, try to find repetitive patterns and themes. Ask yourself, how can I make more time for my passions? Making time can be very simple. Watch infographics on your career, as I do for gynecology, since I wish to have more women's rights and women's career, and find more ways to have women's health be more out there. How can you develop more skills and use your talents to help other people? One way I plan to do this is shadowing. In my future, I plan to shadow a gynecologist. Finally, it can be helpful if you reach out to people who admire in different fields and interview them about different career experiences. Your purpose is your personal mission statement. It's how you plan to stand out in this world. It'll drive your decisions, strengthen your relationships, and steer you towards greater happiness and success. It takes time to find it, so be patient and continue soul searching. Keep learning, sharing, reading, and exploring, and I promise your purpose will reveal itself. Thank you.
Now we have Bianca, who did a award-winning poster on preventative measures for illness. So she's going to explain her poster.
Hello, good evening. My name is Bianca Cicchino. The topic was the National Prevention Strategy. It basically prioritizes the improvement of health and well-being, and what I was trying to portray was a woman who is sick and she does alcohol, she drinks and she smokes, she clearly has an addiction, and she's looking at herself in the mirror and she says, I feel fine, but she really isn't. And you can see that what she sees is that she looks fine, but what her reflection says is no, stop smoking, stop drinking, exercise, eat healthy. And so that's how I came up with the title, What Does Your Reflection Say? And I just put some facts on there, like you are not alone, there's healthy and safe environments, clinical and community preventive services. You can empower people. Health disparities are eliminated, and there are seven priorities: tobacco-free living, drug and alcohol use prevention, healthy eating, active living, injury and violence-free living, reproductive and sexual health, mental and emotional well-being. So that was my poster. Thank you. All right.
You both did a really beautiful job. Thank you both for sharing.
Do you want us to bring them up? Can I have the HOSA members come on up here? Hi, do you want me to say their names? And I'm going to present you with your certificates from the board, okay? All right. Okay. Okay, come on up when I say your name. Sienna Afanador. Katia Antonetti. Bianca Cicchino. Raisha Campbell. Amanda Fiocchi. There you go. I think they're stuck. Natalie Garrett. There you go. Isaac Garrett. Stephen Janetta. Serlene Carr. Rusha Shaw. Madeline Walters. Gabrielle Whittle. And Kiana Zhang. Kiana, sorry. Did I miss anybody? I hope I got everyone. Okay. I'm going to come in.
All right. At this time, does anyone have any questions or comments on the HIB report? Seeing none, do I have a motion for the approval of minutes for March 6th combined meeting and March 13th special meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Fiocchi? Yes. Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Medio? Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. English?
Yes. Do we have any remarks this evening from our board solicitor?
I will, because as a result of the executive discussion on the Loiker School property, so if I can
When you
defer
come-
that when we come back.
Absolutely. And at this time, do we have any public comment on any agenda items only?
Not agenda items, so the ones that filled out forms will wait till the end.
Okay, then at this time, we will be going into executive session, and we will return when that is complete.
looked up I put my maiden name. Okay, so not a first for me in there. My mother. But when I put in Teresa Charlanti, I want to see my neighbor's picture that I grew up with came up. That's my neighbor. How does that happen?
Thank you for being patient. We noticed a lot of red shirts out there this evening, and I just want to clarify one thing. Finance Committee, in conjunction with Mr. Merkley, Dr. Gruccio, we've been working with different cuts out there, and at the present time, there will be no elementary cuts to strings or band, which in turn would not affect any teachers. Did I say that correct, Mr. Merkley? Or student program. Okay, that's good. If you choose to want to still speak at the end of the meeting, you can stay, but I just didn't want you to sit any longer because I realize why you are here, and we had to take care of some board business. So thank you for coming out this evening. And again, we are working with a $14 million shortfall here, and it is not easy. Okay? Thank you.
We're going to suspend.
What I want to do is I want to give board solicitor now.
We're going to suspend it.
No, for future. For future, we want to do that all the time.
Oh, so
That's for you.
okay.
That's going to be a bylaw amendment.
So we.
Okay, at this time, do we have any comments from our board solicitor?
Mr. President, members of the board, by resolution at the meeting on March 6, 2019, the board approved the sale of the Loiker School property in the amount of $551,000 to Golden Gate, Inc. I received a request from Golden Gate's attorney to ask the board if you would consider extending the closing date on or before May 15, 2019. So I would respectfully request... Oh, gee. All right. I will speak louder. Can you hear that?
The speakers aren't working well.
Yeah, it's on.
All right. As a result of the board action taken at the March 6 meeting, the board approved the sale of the Loiker School property to Golden Gate, Inc. in the amount of $551,000. I have received a request from Golden Gate's attorney to extend the closing date on or before May 15, 2019. I respectfully request that the board adopt a motion extending the closing date to on or before May 15, 2019.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please, Mr. Merkley.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Medio.
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana.
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli.
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich.
Yes.
Mr. English.
Yes. Do you have anything else, Mr.?
No, I do not.
At this time, motions and resolutions from the superintendent.
I would like to recommend discussion of personnel items, retirements, resignations, terminations, leaves of absence, employment, transfers, student substitutes, extracurricular activities, extracurricular summer, and volunteers.
Do I have any questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
No, we've got to wait till we'll go.
Oh, you got to do the whole enchilada.
I'd like to
Sorry.
recommend discussion regarding a 3-day unpaid suspension for a certificated employee whose name is on file with the board secretary.
Any questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion to appoint Jean Merkley, School Business Administrator, as the School District Fund Commissioner Representative, and Scott Mustarell, Assistant School Business Administrator, as School District Alternate Fund Commissioner Representative to the Southern Coastal Regional Employee Benefits Fund, effective March 15, 2019.
Any questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend approval of items 1.1 through 1.3.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
I abstain on anything regarding the youth corps, yes on everything else.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich?
Yes on everything but 1.2. I abstain.
So noted. Mr. English?
Yes.
I'd like to recommend discussion of trips and district travel. I would like to recommend discussion regarding the second reading of the following bylaws, policies, and regulations: mandated changes of policy 2422, 2610, 4219, 5111, 5330.04, 5756, 7440, 8561, 2415.06, 2460.8, 5530, 5600, 5611, 5612, 5613, 8461, 0155, 0156, and 0164.
Any questions or comments?
One comment, can we just pull 0614 since it's got to go back to committee anyway? 0164, we're going to go back.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's just pull that one and it'll go back to committee as soon as we can.
And on bylaw 0156, it says, 0155, board committees. I was going to bring this up later, but just, maybe we could just take care of it right now concerning, we usually do our board committee minutes at the end of the meeting. Mr. Merkley had made a great suggestion in one of our meetings a couple days ago, bringing it to the front of our meeting so we can have discussion on what our committees were. In turn, it lets the public know that this is what we're doing, and it would keep, like strings, for instance, from sitting out there for an entire meeting.
Yes, for example, Mr. English, right now, number 7 is public meeting report by the board solicitor. Number 8 is public comment on agenda items. The appropriate place would be right after the report by the board solicitor and before public comment. The bylaw can be changed to insert committee reports.
Okay.
Especially when committee reports may reflect superintendent recommendations and public comment. So
the thought process on that is I'd like to get that through our committee, and then we would have to suspend our bylaw.
That's why Captain Ulrich mentioned that he'll pull 0164. That's the bylaw that would be involved.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
And for Mr. Frangipani, you already know the one change on that. We're just going to move the committee reports up.
And thank you, Mr. Merkley, because that was a great suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to recommend discussion regarding submission of the Comprehensive Equity Plan and support full implementation of the plan on September 1st, 2019, upon approval by the New Jersey State Department of Ed. This is required by the state prior to submission of the NJDOE, which is due before June 14th.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend discussion authorizing the board secretary to enter into an affiliation agreement for the 18-19 school year for the placement of students for field internships, student teaching, practicum, and observations with Newman University.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the first reading of the following bylaw, policy, and regulation. Bylaw 0143, board member election, appointment, and vacancies.
Questions or comments?
Okay, I'd like to recommend approval, of items 2.1 through 2.5.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrano?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. English?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion of a motion acknowledging that no bids were received for Oaken Main property and 17 West Landis Avenue property, and authorizing the superintendent and business administrator to negotiate for the sale of 17 West Landis Avenue with any interested party in accordance with NJSA 18A:20-7, subject to board approval.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend approval of this motion.
Do I have a roll call? I'm sorry, motion?
So moved.
Second? Go ahead,
Second.
Roll call, please.
Brain surgery.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrano?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. English?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion of budgetary transfers for our general school-based and ECBA budgets for February 2019.
Any questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion of the board secretary and treasurer reports for February 2019.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding submission of the following grant applications for the fiscal year 2019. Reallocated Title I application to the New Jersey Department of Ed from February 1st through September 30th, in the amount of $276,896.
Questions or comments?
Discussion of approval of the following grant, fiscal year 2019, Every Student Succeeds, application amendment to include carryover funds to the New Jersey Department of Education from July 1 through June 30th, 2019, Title 1A, Title 1, SIA, Title 2A, Title 3, Title 3 Immigrant, and Title 4 Part A.
Questions or comments?
We'd like to recommend discussion of the Strategic Prevention Framework Partnership for Success Grant through Robin's Nest, Inc. for Wallace Middle School in the approximate amount of $200,000. And I need to make a correction there. It would actually be for all three middle schools.
Questions or comments?
Excuse me.
So the
Okay.
total's the same.
Yes, same total, but it's divided between the three.
Thank you.
I would like to recommend discussion for the Knicks Gangs program through CCPYD, Cumberland County Positive Youth Development Coalition for the Wallace Middle School in the amount of $33,800.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion of Coles Volunteer Grant for Nenny's Elementary School in the amount of $500.
Question?
I would like to recommend discussion of a tuition contract with Salem County Vocational Tech School for the Career Technical and Academy programs for the 2019-20 school year, with a tentative tuition charge per student of $6,277 for 11 full-time students.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the agreement between the Vineland Board of Ed and Catapult Learning LLC to provide special ed and related services to students identified with disabilities between the ages of 3 and 21, attending non-public schools within the City of Vineland boundaries for the 2018-19 school year.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding acknowledgement that no bids were received on Thursday, March 14th at 10 a.m. for the RFP number 03-1920 online education services. The district will re-advertise for these services pursuant to NJSA 18A:18A-22.
Questions?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the joint transportation agreement for the 2018-19 school year between Lower Alloway Creek and the Vineland Board of Ed in the amount of $500.
Questions?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the joint transportation agreement for the 2018-19 school year between Jackson Township School District and the Vineland Board of Education, the amount of $795.01.
Questions?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the transportation addendum contract for the 2018-19 school year between the Vineland Board of Ed and the Winslow Township School District in the amount of $2.74 per diem.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the following Cumberland County Regional Cooperative Transportation Initiatives: 2018-19 jointure, transportation quoted contracts, transportation addendum, bid number 9, student transportation services record and award, and Gloucester County Special Services participation agreement.
Any questions or comments?
I would like to recommend approval of items 4.1 through 4.11.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli? Mr. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. English?
Yes.
That's the end of my
That's it.
recommendations.
At this time, we have a couple items that are proposed by me at this time. I need to approve a motion to suspend policy 7250 and to name the Sergeant Dominic Pilla Middle School's gymnasium in honor of Salvatore C. Shalante, and to name the Sergeant Dominic Pilla Middle School's Media Center in honor of Miles Learman. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Do I have any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. English?
Yes. The second item, discussion and approval for scheduling a special meeting to, I guess I want to call it our board vacancy meeting, and to appoint an individual to fill that vacancy. We looked at our calendars. The 10th of April,
17.
I'm sorry, no, the 10th of April is when the last application is to be received. So we're looking to get the 17th, which is the following Wednesday, a special board meeting in place so we can hear from the proposed candidates and fill that seat. And I just need a clarification from Mr. DeSanto. When we vote on that person this evening, that evening, they have to go through the fingerprinting process, correct?
Yes.
So just because we approve it that night,
It's approval subject to the passing of the state criminal investigation check. But there are also a couple, well, you should have your motion on the date, but tonight you should also discuss a couple of things on procedure, if we could do that.
Absolutely.
After the motion.
Sure.
So this is a motion.
This is a motion
schedule
to-
that presentation for April 17th.
April 17th,
At 6:30.
and it will be a 6:30 start time. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. English?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. English. In the past, the board had adopted a procedure for the presentations. The last couple that I recall, the board developed a series of 5 common standard questions that were asked of each of the individuals. Those people reported a half an hour before the meeting. They were given the written questions. Each completed his or her answers to the written questions. And then one by one, they would be called into the boardroom, or into the auditorium, and give their presentations, whether they wanted to read their answers or include it and paraphrase it. They had to cover those areas. Then the board president asked one common question to the candidates at the podium. and there would be an impromptu answer there. Those 6 questions would be the only questions that the candidates would be asked. The whole purpose behind that is to give objectivity and neutrality, that board members were not able to ask questions themselves that may be to one candidate, not the other. If this board would like to follow that, then what happens is the presentations are made in public session, the deliberation and discussion of the candidates are made in executive session, and then the vote to appoint is made in public session. So it's public, executive, public. But you really need to develop these questions. So you may want to have a committee to do that. You should have that done, prior to April 17th, so that there's a consensus with respect to these are going to be the questions. Perhaps the questions that were asked previously could be provided to board members, but you may want to consider, an ad hoc committee or something in order to develop these questions, and the committee can receive individual input from board members so that the questions are developed. Okay. But that's something I wanted to bring out tonight, because you certainly don't want to get told that at the last minute on April 17th.
Okay, thank you. So realistically, we're at the 3rd now, so we're 2 weeks away from that.
Yeah.
So we're going to entertain discussion on that process. I would like to have an ad hoc committee put in place immediately. I need 2 board members. If we don't need 4 board members, if
2 or 3 would be ideal.
And if we can feed them the questions, it would be ideal. So I do believe I like that process, if everyone agrees. It's been pretty consistent with prior, so I mean, why create a new one? Is anyone willing to jump in on that before I raise my hand?
I could do it, but I might have to conference call, depending upon when everybody's available to meet, because it's happening so quickly.
Yes, okay.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Anyone else?
If nobody else will do it, I will.
Okay, all right, so I will establish that, and I will let Mr. Merkley know, and we should be able to hash that out.
Yeah, the question should... I didn't hear what you said.
I'm sorry.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes.
Okay.
I just said that I would be on the committee.
Mr. Ulrich said he would, might have to be conference called in, and like I said, we can do this, if it had to be at 5 o'clock at night, it shouldn't take that long, but what I'm going to do, I will send an email out, and so these questions aren't in an email form, just contact me accordingly.
You should get a hold of the questions that were used before and circulate that to the board, because they may find those questions acceptable, so without any further...
I'll look for them tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no problem with that. We don't need a motion for that, do we?
No.
Okay. You still can't hear?
Still can't hear?
This is very frustrating for me, because I said at that one meeting that I won't sit in another meeting with this, and I mean, I'm not sure what it's going to take, Dr. Guccio,
The speaker over here on the left blew out,
Yep.
so
There's no
we'll
sound.
have to take care of it tomorrow.
I do have one question regarding the procedure. What time limit are we going to put on the actual answering of the question and comment?
The time limit, I will dig that out. I had sent out an email that had the whole process. I believe that it was either 5 or 7 minutes, the presentation. It clearly was a time limit, and the candidates were told. There's a letter that I had drafted for the board secretary to send to the candidates so they know going in what the process is. So I will contact Mr. Merkley tomorrow and give him whatever I have from prior meetings.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any more questions or comments on that? Okay, so we're moving on to the approval of bills that incurred during February 2019. Do I have any questions or comments? I just have a couple questions that I just want to ask pretty quickly here. A minor one. We have Sodexo now as pretty much our food vendor, so to speak, and I see a lot of Botinos on there. And I know every little bit adds up. Is there a reason we're doing Botinos versus Sodexo? Is that up to each building principal? I'm just curious, that's all.
That's actually used for special ed. They take the children over there and show them how to shop and purchase goods.
So it's not...
It's a behavior modification.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that answer. And then my second one, I had asked some questions concerning our legal fees. There was one group that we got billed for back in 2018. We have 4 groups that we use, 4 companies that we use. 3 were pretty much in line with each other, then 1 was extremely high. And I notice it once again. We have the Cape Art firm at $9,770.50. I've got Mr. DiDomenico's firm, $351. I have Grace Marmero at $537.50, and then Gruccio Pepper at $3,450. So again, I'm seeing the Cape Art firm high, and I'm just not sure why that continues to come in a lot higher. So if that's something we can get looked at and
Just speaking from one department, I get immediate response, thorough response. We've had several issues lately regarding a sick leave law for hourly employees. A couple other issues have come up, and that's what personnel has used them for, Cape Arts Gadget.
Now, and in the past, I was told they were more of our special ed attorney. Am I correct?
That is correct. Actually, that is true. We are using them a lot for special ed also.
And I guess what I worry about is I know we have different rates, so I would hope they're not the higher rate than...
They're a very effective firm, and I'm not using them nearly as much. Maybe I can't speak for Mrs. Godlewski, but they're very effective for the needs and personnel.
Okay. Thank you. Motion to accept the bills that incurred for February 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Mario?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. English?
Yes. At this time, do we have any committee reports?
Mr. English? Yes. So the Finance Committee met on April 1st. Can everybody hear me out there? Present was Dr. Gruccio, Dr. Rossi, Mr. Frangipani, Mr. Fry, Mr. Merkley, Mr. Mustarell, Mr. English, Mr. Holmes, Ms. Spinelli, and myself. We started off the meeting with the board member recommendations. Mr. Holmes and Ms. Spinelli presented their recommendations for budget cuts. All were vetted by the committee and central administration. The consensus was that each item was not something that could be completed this year. Mr. Fry then presented the benefits and goals of the AMSA program. A verdict was reached that returning AMSA students to VHS in middle schools will result in no additional cost savings. And as Mr. English discussed earlier, we re-added instrumental strings and band at the elementary school levels. This was done by saving funds from rerouting busing for AMSA kids. Also able to restore most of the cuts to the cafeteria workers. Mr. Merkley, I don't know if you want to touch on that.
I'll just address the cafeteria.
Yes.
Is considered it's a separate fund. It's considered an enterprise fund, which an enterprise fund in the government world is considered a business. So it has no ramifications to the general fund, which is what the board preliminarily approved March 13th. So we revisited the amount of money that needed to be saved, because the fund does have to break even. You're supposed to run it like a business. You can't be in the black, in the red. It has to be in the black. And in order to get it into the black, there were some necessary cuts, but nowhere near what the original proposal was.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on that? I just have a quick comment, because as I watched meetings last year, when the budget process came around, some board members asked how the committee came to these decisions and what was discussed. At our last meeting, it seemed that there were some line items that each board member had some ideas that maybe they shouldn't be there, maybe we could do something different. So we've reached out to each board member, and we had thorough discussion the other day. It was some good conversation, and when I walked out of the meeting, I knew how I felt. I knew how my fellow board members, the three over there that were in the meeting, and I have to be honest, I still wanted to see some more flexibility and some compromise in there, and I had talked to Mr. Merkley, because I had heard from a couple other board members that were in that meeting about, I don't want to have a meeting on the 29th where we find ourselves banging heads again with the May 1st date looming in on us to vote for the final budget there. So we believe that if we still have things that we think can be changed and need to be changed, we need to get in there and hash it out again. But before we would do that, there were still some board members that didn't get to attend that. So I gladly will make the time to be there because I need to see this discussion. The meat and potato discussion here, and this is something that I've heard before I ran again, is this AMSA program. There's just a miscommunication out there from the cost of it to who it serves to how it is actually benefiting the district. And it's important that we get to a common ground here, because in our discussion, to me, the majority of the board is really hinged on something happening there, and if there's no flexibility there, then we possibly can see some type of a budget that doesn't pass, which in turn becomes an ugly situation when it has to go to the county. But I can speak for my fellow board members that reached out to me. This is an area that the board is really looking to see something happen, and it's really based hugely on what we have been told by the people in the trenches in this district. So I don't want to go into any more detail about that, but we have a couple weeks before the 29th, and as Mr. Merkley used the term, hash it out. We need to get in there and hash it out again. And you guys know the process as far as getting a hold of me and Mr. Fiocchi, so that's where I'm going to leave that. But I just wanted the public to know, I wanted my fellow board members to know, because this committee definitely has got into the process, and it's been open, it's been well respected, it's been heated, but that's what I expect when it's a number that large. So that's all I have for that. Do I have any other committee reports? Question? Sure.
Now, let me understand this right. Mr. Holmes and Ms. Spinelli had recommendations for cuts.
I did as well.
And you had Did all three of you agree on one or two cuts?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now, can the board make those cuts when the budget is presented on their own? I don't need an answer now, but I expect to get one in the next week.
Two of the discussions that were big, as we heard, it was the food service, and it was the strings and the instrumental in regards to the program and the teacher, the two teachers, which are tied to it. And then there was also a $250,000 number that was being used for transportation of the current AMSA students. And by looking at that number, they were able to drop it drastically transportation-wise to get it to a more agreeable number. So,
And Barcy. Barcy, too.
that,
All right, I get the idea. I don't want to show everybody how the sausage is made tonight. We have
Thank
other
you.
things to talk about. But I do want an answer in the next few days. I want to know if the board can vote to change the budget.
Mr. Merkley, he kind of explained the process to me, so I think he can explain that this evening.
Yeah, quite honestly, the board can change it. Once the public hearing occurs and the public gets their opportunity to express their view on the budget, this board can change any piece of that budget at that time, which is why the second board meeting that we normally approve it was re-advertised for May 1st with a second public hearing, because you may have information that comes out of the April 29th public hearing, and if you elect to change it, you have to change it at a meeting in which the public has been heard. You can't change it at a subsequent meeting where the public didn't have an option to offer an opinion on it. So that's why May 1st is the actual adoption of the budget, and it's a second public hearing. So, yeah, this board can change this budget April 29th, May 1st. Quite honestly, you can change it all the way to May 14th when it has to be submitted to the county.
Thank you.
My main concern is I did not want to ambush Mr. Merkley's department, Dr. Gruccio, Central Administrative, with last-minute things. If we can handle this up front through the committee process, people come in there, then they are aware, because, again, by us being there this week, we know what we like, we know what we do not like, and a lot of that becomes which hinged on us giving a yes or no vote. Mr. Merkley did tell me if the budget does not pass the board, it still goes to the county, where the county in turn will make the final decision. And if indeed a board member feels that they did not, what they set out to achieve with what they would have liked to see cut and which way to do it, by all means, you have the right to vote yes or no, and you know that publicly you stated it, and if it was the county's decision to do it that way, so be it. Correct, Mr. Merkley?
Yeah, but hopefully we can hash it out through committee.
That's the design.
And we can come up here with exactly what you would like to see presented. We know the Vineland School District better than the county does, and I would hope that we can settle it before it gets there.
That's why we, again, Mr. Fiocchi will put out more dates. He gave us several dates, so that is where we're at. And I will gladly speak on behalf for a board member if they can't be there, as long as you give me the email that says that's what you would like. Mr. Medio, committee report, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. English. I have a report on the rededication ceremony of the Dominic Pilla School. We've had several meetings. We have a large committee, and the amount of work that people have been willing to do is unbelievable. I'll name the people who are on the committee and some of the things that we had done. Joe Testa donated flags and pins to be handed out to everybody at the ceremony. Penny Sager Rossi was in touch with the Armed Forces along with Jen Pilla. We're supposed to have a Black Hawk helicopter come at 10:30, and people are going to be able to see that. Patty Schiaffo, Jen Pilla, and Kim Codispati did the invitations, which was a lot of work. Carlos Mercado was involved in fundraising, which was a major part of the committee's function, and he was involved in getting the portrait that we're going to have made of Dominic that'll hang in the lobby when you walk into the school. Jen Pilla, Kim Codispati, and Carlos formatted the program. Suzanne Morello did the program and had it finally printed. Tom Ulrich was involved with our OEM liaison. We had Vince Luciano and Alex Silva, getting the online tickets up on Facebook and taking care of that. Patty Sheffo and Donna Martine were involved with the portrait presentation. And Tom and Scott are representing the district during the program. So as you can see, there was a large committee. I don't know if there's been a larger committee formed by the board in this district. And everybody did a lot of work, and they put their heart and soul into this. So I'd like to publicly thank everyone, and I'd like to invite everyone to come out on Saturday, whether you have a ticket or not. I wouldn't worry about it. I might be able to get you in. And I'll see you all on Saturday. Thank you.
Mr. Matty, I too wanted to just thank you because you did chair this committee, and when you get in a committee that size, a lot of personalities and ideas, sometimes it's tough, but in the meetings we had, the 4 or 5 meetings we had, I think it was quality discussion from all levels, and it represents what our community is all about. So I thank you as well. Do we have any other committee reports this evening? Yes.
All right, tonight the Policy and Personnel Committee met with Mr. Frangipani present, myself, John Sabrana, Megan Spinelli, Scott English, Dr. Mary Gruccio, Dr. Joe Rossi, and our new BA, Gene Merkley. Dr. Rossi did some updates to some pending grievances and another item that was already on our agenda for action, which was voted into action tonight. We also discussed transportation positions, how we're going to look at possibly reorganizing duties and responsibilities. Mr. Merkley is going to track that with the authority of the superintendent, and the new purchase order maintenance system is going to follow with that tracking process. We also discussed bylaw 0143, which was fast-tracked tonight for the vacancy and appointment of our new prospective board member. And that was it.
Thank you, Mr. Ulrich. And when it comes to, he discussed the transportation piece pretty quick there. Mr. Merkley's given it a fresh set of eyes. He has some deep knowledge on that, and this is a department that many people have not known where it was heading, but Dr. Gruccio, myself, board members, along with Mr. Merkley, believe this is a valuable commodity and something that we want to stay in. So we are going to do our best to invest in that in the future. Do I have any other committee reports this evening? Seeing none, I'm not aware of any emergent items, so this is the opportunity for the public to address the board. You know the rules. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. And say your name when you come to the podium so we know. Before we start, yes, I just want to make sure everyone's still here because we received a lot of yellow sheets this evening. I want to make sure that it wasn't all based on. So if he calls your name, just make sure that you are still here. Is that the best way?
Yeah. I have Douglas Nieder. He's number 1. So if you'd like to still come up and address the board, you can. Yes, sir.
I apologize as you laid out the Mickey D's and Dunkin' Donuts.
Avira Boyko.
Hello. Hello, my name is Vera Boyko, and I am the elementary strengths teacher across the 8 schools. Here in the Vineland Public School District, where we have such a diverse culture and population, The study of a string or band instrument is open to all in 4th and 5th grade, regardless of academic and economic standing. We service students in our programs who participate in LEAP, those who come from bilingual classes, those who participate in basic skills, Read 180, students who have IEPs and 504s, and those with physical, cognitive, emotional, and social disabilities. There is no discrimination, only an opportunity to enhance, reinforce, and support those educational tools and practices already in place. The study of a musical instrument allows 4th and 5th grade students of all ability levels and diverse backgrounds to work together towards common goals. The students in the instrumental string and band programs work very hard to successfully perform and share their developed talents and discipline with others, thus fostering their confidence, communication, and social skills. On behalf of all those supporting the elementary instrumental string and band programs, we say thank you. We applaud the Board of Education, Dr. Mary Gruccio, our superintendent, and administration for maintaining and keeping the elementary string and band programs intact and for recognizing the educational value they carry. We once again extend an invitation to all of you to the All-City District String Concert on May 28th at Wallace School, and to the band concert, the elementary band concert here at Landis School on Wednesday, May 29th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Boyko.
The next is Peyton Mutter. I'm going to struggle with this name. I think it's Cecily Aschenwander. Denise Bolton Mueller. Anthony Jimenez. Robert Greg Issaman. Okay, that's those.
Thank you.
Those are my props. Can you hear me out there? Okay, I have a big mouth. I'm also very nervous, so I'm going to take my time. Good evening. I'm Roxanne Dorenzis. I teach 5th grade at DePalato Elementary School. I also need my glasses. First, I want to thank you for even considering a tax increase to raise funds for our school budget. But I am also here to say that it's not enough. Mr. English challenged us to speak up and share ideas of how to share this burden. His words, not mine. I don't think of school funding as a burden, but rather as an investment. Year after year after year after year after year, you get the picture. The board's mindset has been, we cannot raise taxes, it's just too much of a burden for the residents of Vineland. They just cannot afford it. I was there when Mr. Brian DeWinney gave his farewell speech on December 10th, 2016, and boasted proudly about how, quote, did his best to hold down the real estate taxes for the residents of Vineland, unquote. He then listed some of the accomplishments he had while serving the board. One was repairing an auditorium, and 2 were lights for the tennis courts and baseball fields. He also talked about his commitment to being a board member and how it wasn't easy, especially when he missed his son's no-hitter because he had to listen to a line of teachers tell him to raise taxes. And yes, I know, Mr. DeWinney is not here, but many of the same board members are, and I'm asking you that you change this mindset, that you start to think of school funding as an investment and not a burden that needs to be shared. Because while you can boast about not raising taxes, the students of Vineland cannot boast about receiving an education that meets their needs. That's who has been carrying the burden, the students year after year after year after year. Here are only a few examples of how they carry the burden. The basic skills program went from 1 hour of support daily to 20 minutes. And now if the cuts that are proposed happen, it will be even less. That's more than a third of my students carrying the burden. ESL students went from 40 minutes of small group instruction with one grade level to 20 minutes of instruction shared between 2 grade levels. They are carrying the burden. 4th and 5th grade special ed students receiving ICR services had all-day instruction with a special education teacher, all day. Presently, they have 1 hour for language arts and 30 minutes for math with one teacher. They now share this one teacher with not 8, but up to 16 students. They carry the burden. When the computer program was cut from the elementary budget, students went from receiving 40 minutes of weekly instruction to no instruction, only if the teacher could fit it in the schedule at the cost of another subject. Again, the students carry the burden. So this burden, let's talk about what it is exactly in dollars and cents. If you were to raise taxes to 6% instead of 4%, and then add the mayor's proposal, it's about $72 a year. $72, that's $6 a month. And what does $6 a month look like? 1 box of Munchkins from Dunkin' Donuts, a double cheeseburger value meal at McDonald's, or how about 3 cups of Wawa coffee? I know our students are worth more than cheeseburgers and coffee. $72 a year is not a burden, it's an investment. I know parents, residents, taxpayers of Vineland would gladly invest in their future if given the opportunity. I know I would, and I do. Just ask my accountant, and this is the truth, and I would show you if you want. Just this school year from July to now, me personally in my classroom, I spent $6,493.16 at DePalato Elementary School. And I would do it again. I was going to cut this out, but I'm going to leave it. If this tax increase would save nothing else, but it would, but let's just look at one line in the budget. If it saved only the instrumental program, think of this as an investment. Where can a student get music lessons from 2 trained professionals with music education degrees for $72 a year? Nowhere. I think it's time the taxpayers be given the chance to invest in their future, raise the taxes, show the state of New Jersey that the residents and this board care about our students. Thank you.
Thank you for the lesson on the word burden. And thank you for speaking.
Thank you.
Vicki Miller. Good evening, Dr. Gruccio and members of the board. I'm sure the board is aware that April is Autism Awareness Month. Yesterday was World Autism Awareness Day, and I wanted to take the time to give my prayers to our district and the special education department for all the hard work they do to help our students on the autism spectrum. These children are truly unique, and I feel their needs are met here in Vineland. The CDC found in a survey that New Jersey has the highest rate of people with autism. 1 in 34 children in New Jersey are autistic. That is a very big challenge for educators all across New Jersey. And I have seen that Vineland really cares for our students with special needs. Terry Garuski does a great job, and it shows. I worked in Vineland, Millville, and Buna, and I can honestly say that Vineland does the best with special education. Like I always say, these children aren't going away. The population will only grow, and I know Vineland will embrace these children with open arms. Thank you again for all your hard work with our autistic students, and thank you to the teachers who devote their time to such worthy cause. Remember, this month, light it up blue for autism awareness. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Chef Martin, can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, Dr. Gruccio and members of the board. I want to begin by thanking Dr. Gruccio and Mr. Mastorell for their hard work on the budget. I fully acknowledge that this is a thankless job, and not everyone will be happy, especially when facing a $14 million shortfall. That being said, I did have a few concerns with this budget. One of the first things I noticed was the reduction of 7 guidance counselors at the elementary level. My concern is that this will include DePalato Elementary School, where our BD program is currently placed. I don't think I have to remind the board of when I came up here last year and spoke at length about the special needs of this population. Many of these students have experienced trauma, endure emotional turmoil, and as I've said before, sometimes an emotional disturbance or behavioral disorder may not be the only diagnosis the student faces. A teacher once wisely explained to me that our BD program is like Ellis Island. You get a mix of everything, students at varying academic levels, students who are on the autism spectrum, and students who may have an unrelated physical disability. Teachers need all the support they can get when handling this often at-risk population. I know from subbing at DePalato that the caseload of about 600 students falls between Mrs. DeTetta and Mrs. King. That's an enormous undertaking, especially with at least 100 kids with IEPs. I understand cuts need to be made, but I'd urge the board to at least reconsider cutting the guidance counselor position from DePalato Elementary. I'm worried that with this cut could come an overwhelming caseload for the lone guidance counselor that would be at the school, and our kids might fall through the cracks. The consequences would be calamitous. I'd also like to address the cuts to our basic skills program. While I know many of the board share my uneasiness with this cutting of this important program, and I may be preaching to the choir, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the important role that they play in our school community. Our students have formed relationships of trust with these professionals who are oftentimes paramount to their success in the classroom. I've seen time and time again the difference that these professionals make. I just can't imagine how our district can ensure an equitable education for our students who are in need of an increased academic support if we're cutting so many basic skills positions. I believe it was 2 meetings ago Mr. English asked the public to think up solutions to the $14 million problem we are facing. I can't say I have an answer for everything, but I do believe I found an area of interest that the board should consider looking into. And no, it's not elementary school assistant principals that certain board members have haphazardly proposed cutting. As I spoke about extensively last year, the relocation of AMSA students to Johnston Elementary School is a tremendous waste. I worked at Johnston last year, and I know for a fact the capacity of that school is far greater than what is currently being utilized. I think the board should inquire about spending that occurs at that school and see what can be cut to alleviate the financial burden for other departments or schools. I fully believe, as Mr. English said, that we need to share the load across the board. AMSA is no exception to the rule. I'm not advocating for the end of that program. I think it is a great asset to our district, and I commend Mr. Fry and the supervisors for the program's success. But unfortunately, we're facing tough times and big cuts. Maybe giving the students of AMSA their own school is an expense Vineland can no longer afford. The program ran well previously at Petway and Memorial Schools. I see no reason why I can't go back to that, or at the very least, why regular ed students can't share the school with AMSA students to potentially save money for our taxpayers. I know that this time of year can be excruciating for central administration, building principals, and members of the board. So many are asking for so much. But what I am requesting is simple. The guidance counselor at DePalato School not be eliminated, an effort to keep as many basic skills teachers as possible, and as a potential area of interest, inquiry into AMSA's budget to see if there are any cuts that can be made to soften the burden of this deficit for students who aren't as fortunate as our high-achieving AMSA students. Thank you, Dr. Gruccio and members of the board, for your attention. On an unrelated and much more positive note, I attended the district's elementary art show here at Landis, and I was blown away. Congratulations to all involved in this event, and it was incredible. It's clear to me that the arts are alive and well in Vineland, and that is something everyone here can be proud of. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Martine.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Arena, and I'm principal at Dr. Many School. I'm also a resident of Vineland. This evening I came up to speak on 2 topics, and I think both of them have been slightly addressed so far, but I wanted to add some more information. The first topic is the basic skills teachers in our district. We currently have 34 basic skills teachers at the elementary level, and that's because there are no basic skills at the middle school level. So when children need to get help to get them on grade level where they're supposed to be, we need to do it in the elementary schools because it's not happening in the middle schools. So of the 34 teachers that we currently have, The proposal is to cut 18 of those teachers, leaving 16 teachers to teach the basic skills students in our district. And you might think that, well, 16 sounds like a good number. It sounds like a lot. But if you look at the number of students receiving math and reading instruction at the elementary level, compare that number to the number of students attending that school, our schools average 30% of their population receiving basic skills in math and reading. That's a very significant number of students that need help. And I am telling you, we are only touching the surface of that right now. Many of our schools have waiting lists because we can only address students getting D's and F's, not those that are on getting a C that are marginal, that might be able to get that little extra bump that might be able to help them. But we have children who we cannot service because we do not have enough staff currently to meet the needs of that population. So that looks like 1,346 students being serviced by 16 teachers. If you break that down, that's one teacher for every 84 students to receive basic skills instruction. These children need the most significant amount of help because they are so far below grade level. And you might say, well, why don't you send them and get them an IEP or have the child study team evaluate them? If that were the case, we would be well over the number of the state's guideline for special ed students. We are trying to address our students through the I&RS process, that we follow that program and we try to tier them. We don't use the RTI anymore, but we try to use that same framework to provide the services for our students based upon their needs. Now, if you look at that number and you look at the students in AMSA, right now there are 39 fifth graders, 50 sixth graders, 36 seventh graders, 30 eighth graders, and 46 high school students. Approximately 201 students receiving services in the AMSA building. Approximately 22 teachers are hired to service the needs of 201 students. When you're comparing that to the needs of 1,346 basic skills students with only 16 teachers. I think that the AMSA program is great, but I think we have to invest the same amount of funding to help those students who are in need, who need that support. And to me, this is very obvious and very blatant with the discrepancies. The other issue I wanted to address were the comments made at the last board meeting about cutting 6 or 7 assistant principals. And it's not just the assistant principals. I don't know any principal in this district who doesn't share the workload and burden with their assistant principals. We are all working together for the best environment for our students in this district. Part of our day is doing teacher observations. We have about 40 observations apiece to do. And you think, okay, well, it's an observation, no big deal. Well, every observation requires a pre-conference with a teacher. It requires the observation. It requires probably at least an hour of your time to write up the observation. And then it requires a post-conference. And then it requires some walkthroughs to follow up on your recommendations to the teacher to see that they're doing the things that you asked them to implement in their observation. So we're working on that. The discipline, there are over 16,000 discipline referrals in Vineland Public Schools right now. Our assistant principals are working at every grade level. At the elementary level, 2,297 discipline referrals. At the middle school level, 5,771 discipline referrals. At the high school, 7,669 discipline referrals. That is this year. Our assistant principals are working tirelessly, contacting parents, mediating with students, trying to find out what's going on. They act as guidance counselors. They're working to have the safest, secure schools with good student participation and everything. And I don't understand how a school could possibly function without them. They attend 504 meetings. They attend... I'm done?
You've made your, we hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
You're at your 5 minutes plus.
Sorry.
No, I respect your passion.
But it is very concerning when you see the amount of work the people in our district put in on a daily basis, at nighttime, on the weekends. We're sending emails back and forth to each other. We can't cut. We have to replace the 2 that are currently vacant.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am Rebecca Allen, the district elementary band teacher. I stand up here tonight to first off thank you, but once again to stress the importance of the elementary instrumental band and string program. I'm sure most of you have heard that music makes you smarter. Not only does music make you smarter, but specifically playing an instrument can change the brain. It makes it more powerful, can help cognitively, and has been proven to increase IQ. If that is not reason enough, I would like to cover a few other points. The instrumental program is not catered to just one specific group of students. For example, football tends to athletes, AMSA tends to our gifted students, etc., but instrumental music can cater to any and all students. Over the years, I've taught just about every kind of student in Vineland. I've had gifted students, but I've also had kids in special ed. I've taught ESL students, basic skills students, athletes, students with autism, and last year I even had the pleasure of teaching a deaf student who was nominated to perform with the All South Jersey Elementary Honors Band. Kids need music, and I myself was one of those kids. I cannot imagine what my life would have been like without instrumental music being cut out of my elementary years. I know that the district is faced with a very hard decision about where to cut funds, but I can guarantee you that it will be a huge loss. You might not see it right away, but in a few years, it will drastically hurt the middle and elementary school levels. Over the last few weeks, numerous people have approached me about the cuts and were relieved to hear that I would still have a job. As of right now, there are 2 open music positions in the district. But what they don't understand is that this isn't about having a job. It is about having the program. Thank you again for your time and your consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Greg Nordberg, and I'm here as a taxpayer, but also as a parent. So in the previous years, we've had tax rates go up, no problem. We see the education, it's as an importance. The problem that I have with the 4%, it isn't enough. But the problem is we've been needing to have it for the past 15 years. I'm a Vineland High School graduate, 92. And the average of the education has stayed the same since 92. We're still a below average educational school system. We need to be competing with more school systems like Washington Township, Cherry Hill, Chemung. Our tax rates are not much different than theirs. But the question is, why in the past 15 years hasn't our education taxes gone up, as well as the county taxes and the city taxes, instead of having such a rate hike as we are going through right now? So you're looking at Cherry Hill High School. Each student is back in 15-16 school year. Excuse me. Their rate per student was right around $18,000 per student. Our 17-18 year was only $16,000 per student. So clearly we need to be able to get that difference up. So within the next few years, we have a long goal ahead of us. So the question I still have is, if our taxes are going to go up, where's that money going to go? All right? So, yes, I applaud your decision to be able to keep the transportation here in Vineland, because if you look at the surrounding school districts, the transportation, they are very limited. They have no busing school system, no company to be able to do it for themselves. So they're stuck with only one or two companies. So therefore, the bids are very minimal. Vineland, we should need to actually put more money into our transportation, because we're the largest area per, the whole entire state. It's not going to go away. The transportation issues are going to be getting worse. I see schools that are having the busing come from areas that the drivers don't necessarily care about the students because it's not their kids. I would hope that if we're hiring within the city, those people that are driving the school buses would actually understand that, yeah, that may be their grandchild, so it's going to make a difference. Therefore, let's invest into our transportation department, not take it away. Another subject is we can coordinate the busing a lot better. Yesterday, I go to pick up my son. I see a coach bus instead of a Vineland bus picking up and dropping off the students for track. Was that, a problem? Or was that just, a misappropriation of the buses? So it's even working down to the small items that had to come out of our pocket, and yet we're asking to be paying more money. So once again, what are we going to be getting with our extra tax money? So you look at the AMPS program. I hear a lot of people talking about the AMPS being a big cost-effective problem. Is there a chance that the AMPS program can work on the high school schedule versus their own schedule? That would alleviate having to have the school buses to go around at a different time. So you drop off all the students at the high school, you're dropping them off at the AMPS building. They're right now talking about sharing programs with the high school. Well, isn't that a transportation issue? Because are we going to be asking the same students to walk from the AMPS school building to the 11-12 and the 9-10? So that could be $250,000 in savings just by changing up the way that the schedules work. Yes, that may be asking a lot for the younger kids that are in AMSA, but it's a cost savings. So once again, where are the savings going to end up coming from, and where's my dollars going to be if the tax hike is going to go? That's my question.
We do not exchange a dialogue. We listen to your question,
Mm-hmm.
and you're looking for...
I'm just leaving it as an open-ended question. Where are my tax dollars going? Because I don't want to see it to a $17,000 desk, or more money being put to a field where yet we still have a transportation issue because we still have to get the kids from the school to the field for them to practice on or play games on because it's here versus at the 11-12 building or in the 9-10 building. So I just want to make sure that the money is going to go towards the students, because education has to be a #1 priority in this country, and it isn't right now. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Milburn.
Me again. So, as we all know, I've been up here, I've said it.
Can you say what your name is, please?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Tara Meyerson, Frederick Court, Vineland, teacher and taxpayer. So as we all know, the cuts in this budget, they're detrimental, and the students are getting hit the hardest. And I really feel that you're cutting from the wrong places. I think you need to stop looking down and look up. I'd like to address the guidance counselor cuts this time. We hear talk of character ed, schools of character, we have a few, social emotional learning. How can we hold up these programs if you are getting rid of guidance counselors and social workers? I know today Wallace Middle School had a challenge day, and I know some of you were there. I was not there, but when my sister and my vice principal tell me with tears in their eyes how powerful the day was, how the students poured out their hearts and shared their challenges and their skeletons and just so bravely poured out their hearts. I can't see how having less guidance counselors to support them would help them at all. We need to add more, if anything. I think you need to take a look at some of these programs, and I know everyone here that spoke brought this up. We need to revamp AMSA. I would like to know why students in a basically empty building are getting such privileges, why there are 2 teachers teaching 1 class, why they don't have to pay for busing for class trips because they come to our school, but yet in my school, we can't even take field trips anymore because we have to pay for busing. I just want to know why. I know I spoke about basic skills teachers too. You know how I feel. I spoke about the playground aides and the food service workers, and I'm happy and relieved to know that some of that is coming back. That's amazing, so thank you. But again, we have to learn from the past. We can't repeat our mistakes. Like Roxanne said brilliantly and showed you, not only with her words, but visually, that citizens should be investing in education, not seeing it as a burden. You can set that example. Raise taxes if you have to, absolutely. So thank you again for looking at these budget line items. Keep looking at them. Find other ways to raise revenue and discard this ridiculous spending. Like I tell my students when they face a challenge, you can do it. I know you can. And in closing, silence speaks volumes. I would love to know when the meeting is adjourned or right before when board members are allowed to say how they feel. I really feel like it says a lot when you do speak your mind and you tell us how you feel about these cuts. You know, when you say no comments at this time, I feel like it gives the wrong impression. Maybe lack of care. I just feel that when I hear none at this time, especially in a detrimental and a serious situation that we're in. I would love to hear your reasoning and how you feel about these cuts. I would love to hear them. I think we all would. So, you know, as the meeting closes, think about that. We do want to hear how you feel about these because silence, again, speaks volumes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Suzanne Morello, Canterbury Lane, Vineland, New Jersey. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Medio for really pushing for the rededication committee. It has been one of the most rewarding committees I have ever served on. People in the community are very excited. It's been a very dynamic group of people. And I know Mr. Medio is under the weather because if not, he would not have forgotten Mrs. Monahan, who has been very gracious at the school and has had lots of very good ideas and has corralled her students and encouraged them to participate. So that's number 1. Question number 2. I am sitting out here and absolutely puzzled because I have been in those seats through 9 budgets. I applaud board members for investigating the areas that they really don't agree with or have questions about, the line items and the cuts. But as it's the budget of the superintendent and central administration, I certainly would hope that the things that we're hearing about tonight would have been uppermost in the minds of administration when this was being done. Every year, it's the arts on the block. A big hoo-ha, at the last minute, it's pulled back. That's getting old. I didn't know a whole lot about the spending for AMSA. AMSA is a great program, but clearly that has been happening with the approval and the say-so and the encouragement of administration. This isn't something that just pops up at budget time. So it really makes me wonder what is going on and how monies are being spent during the course of a year. And if I listen to this staff, and I have no reason to disbelieve the things they are saying, there's a problem with discipline referrals that needs to be addressed ongoing. Years ago, I talked about some of the social emotional programs that there was funding for through the state. I thought that was being stepped in. That would help address some of these frequent flyer kids who have issues and move our district forward. It would be great if we were like Cherry Hill or Washington Township. Our demographics don't support a lot of the positives. We have a lot of great things that go on. We have a lot of great families. We have a lot of great kids. But we also have challenges that those communities do not have. And that has to be looked at, owned, and addressed and move forward. So As you work on the budget, God bless and Godspeed, but I really think that we all, as taxpayers, have to look to administration and say, how did it get this far? And what needs to be done at the grassroots to support the staff, to support the kids, and to spend the dollars wisely. And what is 0143, and why are you changing something like that right before you're going to select an interim board member? What's that all about? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morello. Do we have anyone else this evening?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Tasso. I have 2 kids in the district at Durand. And I just really have 2 things that I'm concerned about. One's the budget, of course, because when I read an article in the Daily Journal that has a laundry list of people who are no longer going to be working in our district, it scares me a little. I just worry about the proposed cuts because I worry that less aides in the playground, less in the cafeteria, less aides on the buses, and less guidance counselors at the elementary school level. I'm worried that some kids are going to fall through the cracks. And I'm not really worried about like just my own kids. I'm not just worried about my 2 to go to school. I'm worried about every single kid that I see. I do the PTO at my daughter's school, so I'm in there a lot. I almost never see the principal or the vice principal at their desk. They're never there. They're always out doing something. So somebody said something about maybe some vice principals are going to be cut, and I really hope that doesn't have to happen either, because those people are busy. They're never sitting still. And the other concern that I really have, aside from all those support staff being cut, is that I tried to call the Board of Education and get some information about the budget other than what was in the newspaper, and I got transferred 4 times on the phone and never got any real answers. I got a lot of, oh, I'll put you to this department, oh, I'll put you to that department, and I never really got anywhere. I went on websites, I tried to find any information about how the money is spent in this district, and I couldn't get anywhere. I was told that I could fill out a form, but that I would have to be very specific about the information that I wanted. So I feel powerless is how that makes me feel. And I don't really care for that feeling. But other than that, I just hope that you can raise my taxes, I'm okay with it. We pay less than just about anybody else in this state. Cumberland County has the lowest taxes in the whole state, and I mean, a lot of people are sending their kids over to Pittsgrove for school choice. They pay more taxes in Pittsgrove Township than we do. I mean, why can't our kids have what they have when other people are going over there to get more, or what they perceive to be more? Because I think that Vineland's a great school district. We've got a lot of things that kids can do. I always tell my kids that going to Vineland High is like going to a college, because there are so many choices and programs that they can do. So, I mean, I have a lot of faith in this place, because I just do, and I'm going to stop talking now. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Tasso. Do we have anyone else this evening? Seeing none, do I have any old or new business by any board members? Seeing none, now it is our time for board member remarks. I almost hate to ask. Mr. Medio.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Sabrana.
Thank you to our flag saluters, all the people that were honored tonight, and to Ms. Myerson, anyone else out there. I can't speak for my colleagues, but I'll tell you for myself. If I say no comment at this time, that doesn't mean that I haven't had numerous conversations with my colleagues and with administrators about issues here. In fact, I don't think a day goes by where there's not one 2, 3, 6 phone calls, emails, going back and forth, talking about these things. None of us made the budget that we're dealing with right now. We have to vote on it. Yeah, we put our 2 cents in, what we'd like to have, what we think should be cut, what things should be expanded. We would like all of our kids to have everything. That's why we're here, and that's why we're here for nothing, week after week, month after month, year after year. When I first decided to run after leaving this district in 20 years, people said, have you completely lost your mind? Didn't you have enough? And I thought, no, I haven't, because I want to see this town that I grew up in, that I went to school here, and that I've worked at for 20 years and given so much of my life to, be the best that it could be. I can't do it alone, and none of us can do it alone. We need your help. We need the community's help. It's good to know that people are okay with raising their taxes. But for every person that stood at that podium and said, I'm okay with you raising my taxes, I've heard from 3 or 4 or 6 or 10 saying, I can't afford any more taxes. So believe me, those folks are out there too. They don't come here and stand at the podium, but they feel the same way with you do. Their passion is just as high as yours is, and they feel just as abused in a lot of ways as you and I do. So I can't, like I said, I can't speak for anybody who says no comment, but that doesn't mean there's not a lot going on behind the scenes here, because there really, really is. And we really do care. I know all of us do, and I can tell by the kinds of conversations that have been going on and saying, we don't want to cut instrumental music. I bought my first automobile with skills I learned in this school district. Okay, so that would be the last thing I would want to cut. Unfortunately, it didn't come to that, because I would have spoken passionately about saving that somehow or the other, even if it meant raising taxes up to 6%. So, you know, and we're having conversations right now about the other things, because I don't want to see basic skills, you know, cut. I live with a teacher, and she beats me over the head about that every day, okay, because none of us want to see anything get cut from the classroom. And about decisions that were made in the past and things that were said about things that we were going to get that we didn't get that led to money being spent. Well, as a good friend of mine sitting up here says, you can't unring the bell. But moving forward, I think we're going to do the very best we can for all of the kids, all the staff, and the taxpayers. You can't do everything, but I think we're really trying, and I'm proud of what we've been doing. So that's my 2 cents worth for the night.
Thank you, Mr. Sobrano. Mr. Fiocchi.
Well, I can't say any better than Mr. Sobrano said, but I'm a lifelong resident of Vineland. I'm a homeowner in Vineland. I'm marrying a teacher, so I mean, we're all very extremely dedicated. And as he said, there's always 2 sides of the story, so we obviously do care. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fiocchi. Mr. Holmes.
Yes, today I had the pleasure of attending Challenge Day at Wallace School, and it was a remarkable and fulfilling event. And I want to thank Ms. Debbie Quinn and her staff for the turnaround that I've seen at that school. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Today was about empathy, compassion, and teamwork. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity, and I look forward to attending tomorrow's Challenge Day at Memorial School. As a board member, I want to remain in touch with students and fight for their interests. I myself cannot sit up here and make decisions about these students, their teachers, and the administrators without seeing what they go through on a daily basis. In regards to the budget, I'll be very transparent. I'm looking forward to more dialogue, and for me right now, I won't be supporting this budget unless some of the cuts that I presented on Monday night, Monday's board meeting, are considered, are looked into. A few months ago, I expressed to Central Administration that if we're going to ask building principals, teachers, our staff to do less with more, then this building should set the example for doing less with more before we ask anyone else. Again, I don't always give comments, but I'm accessible. I'm in your schools almost every week. Stop me in the hallways, we'll talk, and I'll look into anything that you talk to me about. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Ms. Spinelli.
Good evening. When it comes to the budget, we're not done hashing it out, so I really don't want to comment on that until we work a little bit harder to define those lines. And I am one of the only board members besides Inez that actually has a child in the district. So I get it. I'm in the schools, I'm dealing with teachers, guidance counselors, my son has an IEP, so I understand all the cuts on every level.
Thank you, Ms. Spinelli. Mr. Ulrich.
Well, I'm never at a loss for words. For those that followed the district for probably 10-plus years I've been on this board. Okay, someone asked, and I'm going to keep it easy. I have a lot going through my mind. I have good insight from my wife just being in the district. I mean, sometimes she'll give me a point of view that I didn't consider. Why? Because I'm not a teaching professional in an urban public school district that has a lot of children that need a lot of things. So with that being said, a gentleman asked, where does my taxpayer money go? Well, frankly, over 80% of it goes to salary and benefits for the very people that provide these services to our children each and every day. And that's a reality. That's a fact of life. That the majority of the budget that we control is very small. So you're looking at a big number to support this. And that doesn't include the facilities, the electric costs. Well, healthcare goes up at a rate that alarms the entire country. But that is the truth, that we control a very small portion. Am I happy? I've been pretty much silent. I gave up my seat on the Finance Committee so other board members could have that direct access to Dr. Gruccio and Mr. Merkley, and I will continue to give up that seat. I feel that we're not just looking at $14 million this year. We're looking at projected $8 million the next year. So when you're looking at $22 million, you can't be looking at this moment. There has to be a longer approach to this. This is not the short game. We have to look beyond this. The state is not going to bail us out. So we have to figure out what is the greatest value of our dollars spent to service the majority of our students. And frankly, for 10 years, I've been trying to be an advocate for the kids that are in the cracks, the kids that are falling behind. My life in law enforcement for 34 years saw that if we don't impact those children and get them an education and let them fall through the cracks, someone mentioned it, maybe Mrs. Arena, that C student that maybe needs that little help that can fall down. They end up on the streets. They end up committing crimes. They end up being incarcerated. That creates a cycle that never breaks. And we can't fix everything with money. Even if we raise taxes tonight by another 2%, as it was suggested, does anybody realize that that's probably a little shy under 500,000? Is that going to stop the layoffs and positions that are going to be cut as a result of a $14 million deficit? It will not. Sure, you know, I'm not interested in stopgap measures, frankly. I'm interested in what we can do long-term, classroom-centric, education-focused on the majority of the students that we have. I haven't been a supporter of this consolidation effort that we've had in our district. Those that know me know that I was one of the ones that did not see this. I've spoke about it. But in order to say I want to look at AMSA, to this date, I've never been given an actual cost of what that really costs. It took a board member, and we're not supposed to be involved in the day-to-day operations, right? That's micromanagement. And I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but one of our ethical responsibilities under the Code of Ethics that's passed is to ensure that the district is well run. And when it takes a board member to find out that we're spending nearly $250,000 to bus at the time less than 150 students. And our district staff did not anticipate that, find that. That does not fit the definition of a district well-run. Someone has to be responsible for that. Yes, it's caught now. And yes, the figures have been adjusted. I just got the bus list, which was a great piece of information. I know all the bus runs in the district, how many kids are on each bus. When I see 9, 8, 10 kids on a bus at Johnstone School, I cringe. Mr. Fry has done a great service to those group of students. I have family members that are in that program. I am going to catch holy hell for even saying this. But we have to look at what that program costs us. It services so little kids. Yes, those kids will succeed. They're the kids in life that have a kind of step up on people because maybe of their family situations, they're maybe gifted with above average intelligence or superior intelligence than other children. They're going to succeed. But should we be giving them MacBooks and coach bus rides? I don't think so. But I don't want applause, because that's not what I'm looking for. I don't want applause. This is about, I've been described sometimes as being too, I don't know, what's the term? Cold. Too, I mean, that's not my point, but I look at it as a problem. And like Mr. Sabrina said, we all want, and I know everybody up here, wants everything for the students, all things. Every person that come up here, I agree with you. I just don't know how you're going to do it, what you think your expectations are going to be. That even if we restored guidance counselors or basic skills teachers, I don't even talk about basic skills teachers because I catch hell about it, because my wife's in that profession. She doesn't want me to draw interest to that. Why? Because it's a tough thing. She knows what the dollars and cents are. She knows what the realities of teaching in an urban school, in an elementary school. She volunteered to go to Max Loiter School, an environment that serviced a minority community. Volunteered to make an impact, to teach those kids, just like what I heard from other people up here tonight. And that's how I feel about education. Otherwise, why would I waste my time for a job that doesn't pay me anything, that I have to hustle here for every meeting? And the district is working hard. The district being Dr. Gruccio, Mr. Fry, Dr. Rossi, John Frangipani, the principals. You cannot discount the amount of hours that have gone into this. You may not agree with what's in that budget. A piece of it or that. I don't feel it's our role to line item the budget. I'm looking at big ticket change items that are going to affect the future and address the majority of our students. If you can show me that, then heck, maybe I can move and maybe go to 5% or maybe go to 6%, but I need a return on my investment. And I'm not seeing that to just throw up and blow another $500,000 into a budget where people think that we're going to save all these jobs, and we're not. And Dr. Gruccio is not going to be able to. Every person that comes up here, they tug a heartstring, but they tug a heartstring. We all, you know, that's a tough choice. So I'm more inclined to lean towards the educational professionals, but when it comes to the allocation of monies, before you can make a decision on a program, I need to know what that program costs, the actual real cost. Not that it gives students a 2-year associate degree when they leave here. That's not our role as a public school. Yes, it's a benefit for those students that participate. I will agree to that. It's a huge benefit, but it's not our primary role. Our primary role is to reach the biggest amount of kids we can and provide them with a quality education so we can get those test scores up, because we're not moving it. Let's look at our high school, well, you know what, I can go on our high school graduation rate is terrible. Other districts are in the 90% range. We're not, 78, 79%. So, yes, there's a lot of thoughts going in my mind. I've just been reserved because I want to give the deference to the administration because it is their budget. I'm sorry, Scott, that's all I have.
No, thank you. Captain Earls, you said it all. Dr. Gruccio, please.
Well, I could go on for hours after some of the comments. I just want to stress a couple things. There is misinformation out there, and some of the things that are being addressed, you don't have the full story. I also want to remind you the size of our district, and although people want to see us cut at the top, which means here, if you'd like me to give up my job, I will do so, but I think you need to realize that a district this size cannot run efficiently if we get rid of one of our assistant superintendents. If we can't get, who are we supposed to get rid of at central administration? We need these positions. I invite anybody on this board or anybody in the public to spend a day with us here at the board office. You could shadow any one of us you would like. And I don't think you'll find 5 minutes downtime except when we do go out to lunch because it's what keeps us going through the day. Other than that, we have people that put out fires all day long, people that look at numbers and spending all day long. There is not misspending in this district, and if and when we find it, we correct the problem. We cannot know every single thing that's happening in a district with over 2,000 employees, with 11,000 students. The most important people in this district are our teachers. Any teacher in this district or any other district can make or break a child by what they say, how they say it, and what they do in that classroom every day. It's not us that are the critical people. It are the teachers in the classroom. Do I like the fact that we're cutting basic skills? I've lost many nights' sleep over that. Do I like the fact that we're lowering our amount of counselors or playground aides? Absolutely not. This budget was not easy at all. We have been working since October, hours upon hours upon hours, to try to do what was right and not hurt the classroom. That's not easy to do when you're cutting $14 million, when you cut $6 million the year before, and when you cut $5 million the year before that. We keep hanging on the best we can every year to survive and not hurt our children. But I will also tell you this, whether we've had money or not had money in this district, we have done the very best we could possibly do for our children. I'm proud of the school district. I'm proud of the education our kids are offered every day in those classrooms. I'm proud to be working here for 44 years. I'm proud to have gotten my own education here, my children's education here. And I would put our school district up against any other. I'm tired of hearing the negatives. I'm tired of hearing that we don't have a good district. I invite anybody to spend a day in any classroom, in this board office, or in any school. We are doing good, and we are doing the best we can with the money and the population that we have to serve. We cannot pick and choose who we want to educate. We are not a charter school. We are not a CC Tech school. We can't give tests to see who we want to be here and who we don't. Every child that walks through these doors, we educate. So please remember that, and remember our size and what we're trying to do every day for the children in this district. Is it perfect? No. Do I like the budget? No. But if anybody has any ideas where to come up with millions of more dollars, I'm ready to listen, because I would put basic skills back tomorrow, playground aides back tomorrow, guidance counselors back tomorrow. I don't want to see any of those people go. But you have to make tough decisions. And I would be glad to discuss with anybody if you have a specific item, including AMSA, because you have part of the story, not all of it. And I would be glad to take the time to talk to any of you or board members. And I thank the board members. They don't get paid. They're given their time. I think we made progress at our last meeting. We're willing to listen to what you'd like to see back in the budget. Just remember, whatever we put back in, we're taking something else out. So please try to remember the size of our district, and please get all your facts before you're ready to tear something apart. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gruccio. Mr. Ulrich spoke a lot this evening. Voices we haven't heard spoke a lot this evening. I think today's the 3rd, right? This is my 90th day back after a 2-year break, and I came back for 3 reasons. I heard the cry from the people in the trenches that said, we missed the communication, the collaboration, and the transparency. I have no problem giving it and bringing it. But again, it's how everybody digests it. What will happen at our next meeting, you're going to see every AMPSA parent now, because that is an issue for every board member sitting up here in some different shape or form. As far as our county goes, we are a county with the highest unemployment, foreclosures, and a diverse demographic population that is super challenging. I respect when Mr. Norberg came up, a fresh face. He mentioned names like Cherry Hill, Shamong, and Washington Township. That's where we would love to be. But our demographics, you pick up the newspaper. The thickest part of the newspaper are the foreclosures now. This is what we are dealing with.
We have to have goals.
I'm sorry?
We have to have goals.
We have to have goals. I own my own plumbing business, and I get paid to fix things. I came back to this board because I believed I could help and give guidance. I can't talk about what has happened, but I can tell you that I will continue to work because I take constructive criticism better than anybody. It is a great teaching tool, and I got a lesson tonight on the word burden, which in my words is share the load. And I thank you and I respect you for that, because we chose to sit up here, but we also are the custodians of the taxpayers' money. So we can sit around here and have great debate, and that is what I am all about, because the district has been stagnant. This is quality discussion, and I believe that's what needs to happen. So Dr. Gruccio hears from both sides. So the board hears from both sides. You know, is it great? It's not great. Is it bad? No, we're somewhere right in the middle, because I could take you to Camden. I can take you different than the Shamongs and Washington Townships. That's just a whole different beast in its own there. But I could sit here and talk about so many different areas. I wrote words down: burden, powerless, share the load, raises, taxes. If we were to raise taxes 1%, I think Mr. Merkel and I were going round and round. Everybody says, wow, raise them 1%. What's that give us, Mr. Merkley? 3 special? What's it give us? 3? So realistically, that's 3 basic needs, or 2 basic needs and a guidance counselor. To get us where that 12% number is like the magic number, but you don't get there overnight. This is a challenge that this board, and we have great board members. I don't like when the public lashes out at my board members. You lash out at me because I chose to want this seat, and I can sit in this seat and wear the hat. These people have full-time jobs, and I have tapped into each one of their specialty areas that they have, and that's what's the behind-the-scene things that the public doesn't see, where that positives are. Positives started tonight with special presentations. That's the beautiful stuff. You know, it's so easy to hone in on the negatives, because the most negative time of the year is budget time. I have asked central administration to be more transparent, and they've answered that call, which fills up rooms, which causes people to collaborate and communicate. I thank you for that, because that gives me the pulse that, number one, I came back for the right reasons, and number two, that we are making a difference. Because trust me, Mr. Merkley said it, we don't want this budget to go to the county. And yes, we are going right down the line between micromanage, or as Captain Arvich said, making sure the buildings are running.
It's a well-run district.
That's it. We will continue, as long as I sit in this seat, run the school district as board members as we are charged to do. I could speak all night about this, but I have to ask everyone to understand when I say share the load, we look at ourselves and our areas first. We can't say why. I am the one that's going hard after AMSA, not to close the program, to maybe make it an 8 through 12 program back at the high school. Things like that. I'm trying to think out of the box, and we are not educators. We are not educators. We have to rely on our professionals for that. But it is our duty as board members, as Mr. Holmes said, who's very quiet from time to time, to hold ourselves accountable, which means one of our number one job is holding the superintendent accountable. And Dr. Gruccio never said she wouldn't wear that hat. We are challenging her right now. And it's not the best time when her and I get together, because it's not, hi, how are you? We yell, we scream, we kick. And it's what it takes, because I am speaking on behalf of the taxpayers that want their taxes raises. The other ones that are my customers, that $35 that might cost them a year is their meatloaf that feeds them for the week. So again, when I talk demographics, yes, there's a lot of different areas here. The last thing I have for you, we talk about, I think Meg said, Inez and her have kids in this district, but we have board members who have family members working in this district. Myself as well. My wife, a kindergarten aide at North Vineland School, Duran School, forgive me, and she sees what's happening at the kindergarten level. So trust me, we know what's going on in the trenches, but I still need to hear more. And I thank everyone. I don't want you to be discouraged for coming to that podium, and I apologize for the 5-minute limit. That is what it is to keep it going. But don't stop coming. Continue to reach out to Dr. Gruccio. Look for your return on your investment, and I can only hope that come the 29th, we see the flexibility the board's looking for, the collaboration, and that's really all I have for everyone this evening. I want you to know one other thing. Don't ever think that central administration, this board, is not working hard. They have a team, we have a team, just like every principal in a building have a team. We all have our comfort zones, and then there's those areas that we are not comfortable, and that's where we are right now. And again, we did good things tonight. Strings, cafeteria. I think people are going to think cafeteria versus basic skills. That's totally different money. Mr. Merkley found something that was incredibly able to help us, but we're talking $3 million worth of special needs, and I will continue to work because I heard the voices. I got to work harder, and I got to figure out a little more. So I thank again everyone for coming out this evening. I need a motion for an adjournment.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you and good night.